Let's get weird into it. Number 8, the spotlight effect. You're walking through a crowded mall, feeling pretty good about your life choices, when you feel a small, cold drip on your shirt. You look down. A rogue drop of mustard, a vibrant yellow beacon of shame, has landed squarely on your chest. Suddenly, the world stops. The ambient chatter of the mall fades into a low hum. Every eye is on you. The teenagers by the pretzel stand are pointing and laughing. The security guard is radioing for backup to deal with the condiment criminal. The mannequins in the store window seem to be shaking their heads in silent judgment. Except none of that is happening. Nobody noticed. Nobody cares. Welcome to the spotlight effect. Your brain's deeply narcissistic conviction that you are the main character in everyone's movie, and they are all watching your every move. Your brain has you convinced that your minor social blunders are blockbuster events, replayed on the jumbotrons of other people's minds. This isn't just your ego talking, it's an evolutionary hangover. For our ancient ancestors, social standing was everything. Being noticed for the wrong thing, like, say, hoarding all the good berries or failing to laugh at the tribe leader's unfunny rock joke, could get you kicked out of the cave and turned into a saber-toothed tiger's afternoon snack. So, your brain developed a hypersensitive social radar, constantly scanning for any sign that you might be embarrassing yourself. The problem is that radar is now calibrated for a world of billions of people who are far too busy worrying about the mustard on their own shirts to even notice yours. You could walk through that mall with a live octopus on your head, and most people would just briefly think, huh, before going back to debating whether they should get the cinnamon sugar or the jalapeno cheddar pretzel. Basically, your brain is a drama queen that thinks you're a celebrity, when in reality, you're just an extra. Number 7, the IKEA Effect. There are 2 bookshelves in a room. One is a perfectly stable, beautifully finished piece of solid oak, crafted by a master artisan. The other is a wobbly particle board monstrosity that you spent 6 hours assembling with a tiny Allen key and a series of cryptic, wordless diagrams. It leans slightly to the left, and one of the shelves is definitely upside down. Which one do you cherish as a priceless family heirloom? The wobbly one, of course. This is the IKEA effect, a cognitive bias where you place a disproportionately high value on things you partially created yourself. Your brain has tricked you into believing that the blood, sweat, and profanity you poured into that flat-pack disaster somehow transformed it into a masterpiece. You look at its crooked frame not as a failure of engineering, but as a testament to your struggle, a symbol of your perseverance against confusing Swedish pictograms. This bias goes way beyond cheap furniture. It's why your home-cooked meal with its slightly burned edges and questionable seasoning tastes better to you than a restaurant dish. It's why that terrible spreadsheet you designed at work feels like a work of genius. The psychology behind it is called effort justification. Our brains hate the idea that our hard work was for nothing. To resolve that uncomfortable feeling, your brain simply inflates the value of the outcome. I suffered for this, your subconscious argues. Therefore, it must be amazing. So you lovingly gaze upon your lopsided bookshelf, a monument to your own glorious labor. To everyone else, it's a piece of junk that looks like it's about to collapse under the weight of a single paperback. To you, it's art. Number 6, the Baader-Meinhof Phenomenon. Ever learn a new obscure word like petrichor, the smell of rain on dry earth, and then suddenly, you see and hear it everywhere for the next 48 hours? It's in a book you're reading, a podcast you're listening to, and a TV show you're watching. You start to wonder if you've stumbled upon a cosmic secret, a glitch in the matrix, or if the universe is desperately trying to send you a very specific rain-scented message. Relax, you're not a psychic. You're just experiencing the Baader-Meinhof Phenomenon, also known as the frequency illusion. This isn't the universe conspiring to show you something. It's just your brain finally noticing what was there all along. It's a 2-part process. The first part is selective attention. Now that your brain has a name for petrichor, it has created a mental file for it. Your brain's spam filter, the reticular activating system, which is usually busy ignoring 99% of the stimuli around you so you can function, has just been told, hey, flag any and all mentions of this word. It's important now. The second part is confirmation bias kicking in. As you start noticing the word more, your brain pats itself on the back and says, see, I knew it. This word really is everywhere. It ignores the thousands of other obscure words you didn't see and focuses only on the hits. It's the same reason why, after you decide to buy a red car, you suddenly see red cars everywhere. They haven't magically multiplied. Your brain has just been given a new search parameter, and it's running that search on a loop, making you feel like the world has bent itself around your recent whims. So no, the universe isn't sending you signs. Your brain just updated its software and is a little too excited about it. Number 5, negativity bias. Imagine you get a performance review at work. Your boss lists 9 incredible things you've accomplished this year. You've increased efficiency, mentored a junior employee, and saved the company a small fortune. You're feeling like a golden god. Then at the very end, she mentions one tiny thing to work on. Sometimes your emails can be a little too blunt. What do you spend the rest of the week obsessing over? The 9 glowing compliments or the one minor critique? If you're a human with a standard issue brain, you're now convinced you're a monster whose emails are causing emotional devastation across the company. This is the negativity bias at work. Your brain is essentially Velcro for bad experiences and Teflon for good ones. That one little piece of criticism sticks, while all the praise just slides right off. This isn't a design flaw, it's a survival feature. Our ancestors didn't survive by blissfully remembering the beautiful sunsets. They survived by vividly remembering the time a rustling in the bushes turned out to be a tiger. A happy experience, finding a bush full of delicious berries, was a nice bonus. A negative experience, eating the poison berries from the bush next to it, was a final lesson. Your brain evolved to prioritize threats, insults, and dangers because they were far more consequential to your survival. The part of your brain that handles this, the amygdala, uses about 2/3 of its neurons to scan for bad news. It's constantly on high alert. So when that blunt emails comment comes in, your ancient lizard brain fires up the sirens and treats it with the same urgency as a predator hiding in the tall grass. Your brain isn't trying to ruin your day. It's just running an outdated security protocol that treats a slightly critical email like a life or death situation. Number 4, the sunk cost fallacy. 2 hours into a movie, you realize it's one of the worst things you've ever seen. The plot is nonsensical, the acting is wooden, and you're pretty sure a boom mic was visible in the last scene. Every fiber of your being wants to turn it off and do literally anything else. Stare at a wall, organize your sock drawer, contemplate the void. But a little voice in your head pipes up. Well, you've already invested 2 hours. You might as well see how it ends. Congratulations, you've just been duped by the sunk cost fallacy. This is the deeply irrational human tendency to continue with an endeavor because we've already invested time, money, or effort into it, even if all current evidence suggests we should cut our losses and run. The sunk costs are the resources you've already spent and can't get back. And our brains hate admitting that those resources were wasted. It's a form of emotional accounting. Quitting feels like admitting defeat and crystallizing your loss. Sticking with it, however, offers the faint, glimmering hope that your initial investment will somehow pay off in the end. Maybe the movie will have a brilliant twist ending that recontextualizes the whole terrible experience. Spoiler, it won't. This fallacy is the reason people stay in bad jobs, failing relationships, and all-you-can-eat buffets long after they're full. I've already eaten 7 plates of mediocre shrimp. I have to get my money's worth. The problem is, the money is already gone. The time is already spent. Making a decision based on what you've already lost is like trying to drive a car by looking only in the rearview mirror. You're not making a rational choice about the future. You're just trying to justify the past. So please, for the love of all that is holy, just stop watching the bad movie. Number 3, the Dunning-Kruger Effect. We all know someone like this. Maybe it's an uncle who, after watching a 10-minute YouTube video, is now a world-renowned expert on quantum physics. Or a coworker who, on their first day, confidently explains to the veteran employees how they've been doing their jobs wrong the entire time. These are the people standing proudly atop what psychologists call Mount Stupid. This phenomenon has a name, the Dunning-Kruger Effect. It's a cognitive bias where people with low ability at a task overestimate their own ability. In other words, they are too incompetent to recognize their own incompetence. The very skills you need to be good at something are the same skills you need to accurately assess your ability in that area. To know you're a bad singer, you have to have a decent ear for pitch. To know you're bad at chess, you have to understand chess strategy. If you lack that foundational knowledge, you have no framework to even begin to understand how much you don't know. The original 1999 study by David Dunning and Justin Kruger was inspired by the story of a bank robber who covered his face in lemon juice, believing it would make him invisible to security cameras. He was, of course, shocked when he was arrested. He knew that lemon juice could be used as invisible ink, and he incorrectly assumed the principle applied to his face. He wasn't just stupid. He was so profoundly ignorant about chemistry and optics that he couldn't even evaluate his own terrible idea. That's the Dunning-Kruger effect in its purest form, a perfect, blissful union of ignorance and confidence. It's the engine that powers internet comment sections and cringeworthy talent show auditions worldwide. Number 2, the fundamental attribution error. Picture this. You're driving, and someone suddenly swerves into your lane, cutting you off without a signal. What's your immediate gut reaction? What a jerk. That guy is a selfish, reckless maniac who probably kicks puppies for fun. You've instantly judged their character. Now picture this. You accidentally swerve and cut someone off. What's your explanation? Whoops, the sun was in my eyes. I was trying to avoid a pothole, and I'm really stressed from a long day at work. I'm normally a great driver. See the difference? This is the fundamental attribution error. It's our tendency to explain someone else's behavior by their internal character, while explaining our own behavior by external situational factors. When they mess up, it's because they are a bad person. When we mess up, it's because of the circumstances. We are the complex protagonists of our own stories, living rich, detailed lives full of context and nuance. Everyone else? They're just poorly written, two-dimensional NPCs who exist solely to be jerks in traffic. This happens because we're operating with a massive information gap. You are intimately aware of your own internal state, your thoughts, your intentions, your history. You know you didn't mean to cut that person off. You have the full backstory. But when you see a stranger do the same thing, you have zero information about their internal state. You can't see the crying baby in their back seat or know they're rushing to the hospital. All you see is the behavior itself. And so, your brain takes a mental shortcut. It attributes the action directly to their personality. It's simpler, it's faster, and it makes us feel a little bit better about ourselves. It's a cognitive bias that turns the world into a simple story of you, the well-intentioned hero, navigating a world filled with villains, idiots, and maniacs. Number 1. Confirmation bias. The internet was supposed to be a gateway to all human knowledge, a tool to unite the world and foster understanding. Instead, it has largely become a machine for proving that your weirdest, most ill-informed opinions are in fact correct. And the reason for that is the mother of all cognitive biases, the one that rules them all. Confirmation bias. This isn't just a minor quirk. It's one of the most fundamental ways your brain processes information. You don't approach the world like a scientist, objectively gathering data and then forming a conclusion. No, you're more like a crooked lawyer who has already decided their client is innocent. You start with a conclusion, that your favorite political party is flawless, that a certain diet is a miracle cure, that the earth is secretly shaped like a donut, and then you embark on a grand scavenger hunt for any shred of evidence that supports that conclusion. Anything that confirms your belief is held up as irrefutable proof. And any evidence to the contrary? It's either ignored, dismissed as fake news, or twisted until it somehow miraculously also supports your original point. Your brain does this because it is fundamentally lazy. Grappling with conflicting information causes something called cognitive dissonance, a state of mental discomfort. It's hard work to completely restructure your worldview. It's much, much easier to just find information that fits neatly into the mental framework you've already built. So, you click on the articles that you know you'll agree with. You follow the people who echo your own thoughts. You build a comfortable, personalized reality bubble where you are always right. Your brain isn't seeking truth. It's seeking comfort and affirmation. It's not an impartial judge. It's a personal hype man, and its only job is to tell you that you were right all along. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.